Marcus receives a phone call on a Thursday afternoon in October. His uncle has passed away. He's 34 years old, works a stable job earning $61,000 a year, has about $8,000 in savings, and has never had more than $15,000 in his bank account at any point in his life. 3 weeks later, a check arrives, $187,000. He stares at it for a long time. He feels grateful. He feels sad. He feels something else underneath both of those things that he cannot quite name yet. That third feeling, the one he cannot name, is the most financially important emotion in this entire story, because that feeling is what drives the decision that 70% of inheritance recipients make within 36 months of receiving a windfall. And that decision is the reason $187,000 quietly becomes nothing. This is not a rare story. This is not a story about irresponsible people or unusual circumstances. The statistics on inherited wealth destruction are so consistent across income levels, education levels, and geographic regions that researchers stopped being surprised by them decades ago. A study from the National Endowment for Financial Education found that 70% of families lose their inherited wealth by the end of the second generation. A separate study tracking individual inheritance recipients found that the average person who receives a windfall of $100,000 or more has spent or lost the majority of it within 3 years. Not the bottom earners, not people with existing debt problems, the average recipient, across all income brackets, across all education levels. The money disappears at roughly the same rate regardless of who receives it, and the reason is almost never what people expect it to be. Let us keep this fair. Marcus and James both receive $187,000 inheritances in the same month. Same amount, same timing, different uncles, different cities, same financial starting point of roughly $8,000 in savings and $61,000 annual income. The only difference is what each of them does in the first 90 days after the money arrives. Not the first year, not the first 5 years, the first 90 days. Because the research is remarkably consistent on this point. What happens to inherited money in the first 90 days almost perfectly predicts what happens to it over the following decade. The decisions made in the emotional fog immediately following a windfall are the decisions that define the entire outcome. And most people make them without realizing they are making decisions at all. Marcus does what feels natural, what feels respectful, what feels like honoring the person who left him this gift. He pays off his car loan, $14,000, gone, but that feels smart. He upgrades his apartment. The new place is $400 more per month, but he has money now, so it feels reasonable. His mother mentions the roof on her house needs replacing, $18,000, and saying no feels impossible given the circumstances. His best friend has a business idea and needs a partner willing to put in $25,000, and Marcus has always believed in him. He takes a trip to Europe that his uncle always talked about wanting to do, $8,000. It feels like a tribute. He buys better furniture for the new apartment. He upgrades his car insurance now that he has something worth protecting. He helps his sister with her rent for a few months because she is going through a hard time. None of these decisions feel like mistakes in the moment. Every single one of them feels justified, emotionally logical, even generous. That is the trap. Inherited money does not disappear because people are reckless. It disappears because people are human. James does something almost nobody in his position does. He puts the entire $187,000 into a money market account the day it arrives and tells himself he is not allowed to touch it for 90 days. No decisions, no plans, no investments, no helping anyone. No purchases, just 90 days of the money sitting completely untouched while the emotional weight of the loss settles and the fog of grief begins to clear. His friends think he is being cold. His family wonders why he hasn't offered to help with things. He feels the pull of every opportunity Marcus said yes to. He says no to all of them. Not because he's selfish, because he read one sentence somewhere that stuck with him. Never make a permanent financial decision in a temporary emotional state. And grief, gratitude, guilt, and sudden wealth are all temporary emotional states that feel permanent when you're inside them. Here's what's actually happening inside Marcus's brain during those first 90 days that makes the money so vulnerable. Neuroscience research on windfall psychology shows that the brain processes unexpected money fundamentally differently from earned income. Money you earn arrives in small, predictable increments your brain learns to budget and protect. Money that arrives suddenly in a large lump sum triggers what researchers call the mental accounting anomaly. Your brain doesn't file it in the same category as your regular income. It files it in a separate mental account labeled found money or bonus money or not really mine money. And money filed in that category has dramatically lower psychological protection than money filed under earned income. You guard your paycheck ferociously because your brain experienced the effort that produced it. You spend an inheritance loosely because your brain has no effort memory attached to it. The money feels different because neurologically it's processed differently. And that processing difference is the primary mechanism behind the 70% loss rate. It's not discipline, it's neuroscience. By month 4, Marcus has spent or committed $112,000 of his $187,000. He still has $75,000 and it still feels like a lot. It's not gone, he is not worried, he still has more money than he has ever had in his life. What he doesn't see is the trajectory. What he cannot feel yet is the rate of departure. Because the remaining $75,000 now has to survive in a life that was structurally expanded to require more money to maintain. The new apartment costs $400 more per month. That's $4,800 a year in permanent new overhead. The car insurance is higher. The lifestyle expectations of people around him have quietly shifted. Christmas feels different now. Birthdays feel different. Social situations where money comes up feel different because everyone now knows he received a substantial inheritance. The remaining $75,000 is not sitting in a stable environment. It's sitting in a lifestyle that was redesigned around the presence of $187,000 and will now slowly drain the remainder to sustain itself. James, at month 4, has $187,000 plus 4 months of money market interest, approximately $188,900. He has made 0 financial decisions with it. He has had approximately 40 conversations with people who want him to make financial decisions with it. He said no to a real estate deal that sounded compelling. He said no to a friend who needed $30,000 to avoid foreclosure. He said no to his own impulse to buy a car that he genuinely needed to replace. He said no to everything. Not forever, just until the 90 days passed and he could sit with a financial advisor and make decisions from a place of clarity rather than grief and guilt and the strange social pressure that surrounds a person who has recently received money that other people know about. At day 91, James makes his first decision. He puts $50,000 into a total market index fund. He puts $80,000 into a 3 to 5 year treasury bond ladder, giving him guaranteed returns above inflation while keeping the money relatively accessible. He keeps $30,000 in a high-yield savings account as an expanded emergency fund. He uses $20,000 to pay off his highest interest debt. He keeps $7,900 liquid for a specific planned purchase he had been putting off for 2 years. Every dollar has a job. Every decision was made with a clear head, specific research, and no emotional pressure attached to it. The $187,000 is still $187,000. It has been transformed from a lump sum sitting in a money market account into a structured financial position that will generate returns, reduce his interest burden, protect him from emergencies, and compound quietly in the background of his life for the next 30 years. Let us run the numbers forward 20 years. Marcus's $187,000 inheritance is essentially gone by year 3. He has the new apartment he can't easily downgrade from, the memory of the Europe trip, the knowledge that he helped his family when they needed it, and approximately $12,000 remaining that he never quite got around to spending or investing in any structured way. By year 20, that $12,000 sitting in a basic savings account earning 1% annually has grown to approximately $14,600. Marcus's $187,000 inheritance produced $14,600 in residual wealth over 20 years. That's an effective return of negative 92% on the original amount when you take into account what it could have become. James is $50,000 in the total market index fund at 10% annual return over 20 years has grown to approximately $336,000. His Treasury bond ladder generated approximately $28,000 in interest over the 5-year period, which he rolled into additional index fund investment. His emergency fund gave him the security to keep his index fund investment completely untouched through 2 market crashes, because he never needed to sell anything to cover a life emergency. By year 20, James's $187,000 inheritance has produced a portfolio worth approximately $410,000 to $430,000, depending on market conditions. Same starting amount, same month, same economic environment, 20-year outcome difference of approximately $415,000. That's not a small gap created by slightly different decisions. That's a life-changing wealth difference created entirely in the first 90 days by whether or not one person was willing to do nothing while the other felt compelled to do something. There is something important to say about the people Marcus helped with his inheritance, because this is where the conversation gets genuinely uncomfortable. His mother